In this video, you'll learn how to find the slope between 2 points on a line. To do that, well, first you need to know what slope is. Slope is defined as the ratio of the vertical change to the horizontal change between 2 points on a line. And there's a nice formula to help you remember, to help you find slope. So to find the slope between 2 points, x1 and y1, and x2 and y2, use the formula m, which is the variable used to represent slope, equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So there's two main things you want to remember about the slope formula. The first thing you want to remember is that it's rise over run. So that means that the vertical aspect of the slope, or the change in rise, what you're going up and down, comes first, and the horizontal aspect of the slope, or what your change in x, or run, goes on the denominator. So it's always rise over run. The second thing you want to know about the slope formula is that the coordinates from the same points will be right above and below each other in the formula. So what do I mean by that? Well, notice how x2 and y2 is 1 point, and y2 and x2 both come first in their subtraction expressions, therefore they're right above and below each other in this fraction. Same thing with x1 and y1. Since they come from the same point, y1 and x1 will be right above and below each other in the same fraction. So now, let's use this formula to try to find the slope between 2 points. So, let's say I have 2 points, 3, 2, and -1, 6. Now, to find slope, you should be able to do it without graphing the points on the line, on a graph. But we're going to do that at the end just to help you understand what slope is. So, first, we'll find slope using the formula. So I'm going to call 3 x1, 2 y1, and then -1 x2, and 6 y2. So now I'm simply plugging into the formula. So I have 6 minus 2, and I'll put that over -1 minus 3. And when I simplify it, I get 4 over -4. And when I simplify it further, I get -1. So that's the correct answer for the slope, -1. But what does that mean? Well, let's plot these 2 points so you can see. So I'm going to plot my first point right here, 3, 2, and my second point, -1, 6. Then I'm going to draw my line as straight as I can. And so what does slope mean? Well, slope tells you the direction of the line and how steep the line is. So a slope of -1, or the unsimplified version, 4 over -4, means that to go from one point to another point on the line, I have to travel or rise 4 units up and then run 4 units to the left, or -4 units. You could also use the simplified version of the slope, -1, which can also be thought as -1 over 1, to help you understand what slope is. So that means that to go from one point to another point on the line, you're going to travel down 1 unit. So remember, the numerator represents what you're moving up and down, so -1 would be down 1 unit, and then to the right 1 unit to get back on the line. So there's also 2 other cases of slope. Well, slope could be positive or negative. So when you're thinking of a positive slope, think steepness. So if a line is going uphill, or as you read it from left to right, is going up, then it's going to have positive slope. And if a line, as you read it from left to right, is going downhill, then it's going to have negative slope. There are also 2 other cases, and that's horizontal and vertical lines. So horizontal lines, if you think of it in terms of steepness, has no steepness at all. It's not going uphill, it's not going downhill, so to represent no steepness, you would say it has no slope. So all horizontal lines have a slope, or m, equals 0. You could also use the formula to get to that same conclusion. So if I have 2 points on this line, say, call this one 0, 8, and this point right here 3, 8, and I use the slope formula to find the slope, I would get the change in y, so 8 minus 8, over my change in x, 3 minus 0, which would come out to 0 over 3, which simplifies to 0. And that's no coincidence, but if you kept doing this with every horizontal line, you would also get a slope of 0. And that's because points on the horizontal line will have the same y coordinates, therefore giving you a numerator of 0 when you do the slope formula. Something similar happens with vertical lines, but a little different. If you think of vertical lines and their steepness, they're so ridiculously steep, since they're going straight up, that you can't define how steep it is. So, therefore, all vertical lines are going to have slopes that are undefined. And you can also come to the same conclusion by using the formula as well. So, if I pick 2 points on this line, say the point 1, 0, and this other point, say the point 1, 3, and I use the slope formula, then I would get 3 minus 0 over 1 over 1, which would come out to 3 over 0. And hopefully you know that whenever you divide by 0, since you can't divide something 0 ways, the answer is going to be undefined. So all vertical lines have slopes that are undefined. The last thing that you'll learn about slope are slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines. The first thing you need to know is that parallel lines have the same slope. The second is that perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite reciprocals of each other. So let's do an example together. If I wanted to find the slope of a line perpendicular to the line that passes through -1, 0 and 4, 7, I first need to find the slope of my original line. So to do that, I'm just going to use the slope formula. So if I look at -1, 0 as x1, y1, and 4, 7 as x2, y2, then when I plug in my formula, I get 7 minus 0 over 4 minus -1. So when I simplify, I get 7 over -5. Now, positive 5, sorry. Now, one thing I want to look at before I go on any further is how the change in y goes above the change in x, and also how 7 and 4 both come from the same point, 4, 7, and 0 and -1 both come from the same point, -1, 0. And notice how they're directly above and below each other. So now, to find the slope of the line perpendicular to the original line, then I first need to find the reciprocal of 7 over 5, which would be 5 over 7, and then also make it opposite, which means change the sign. So since 7 over 5 is positive, the slope of the line perpendicular to that is going to be -5 over 7. So that's our answer. Now, before you go, I quickly want you to try this example on your own. Pause the video as you try it, and then hit play when you want to see how you did. Alright, so again, to find the slope of a line perpendicular to another line, we need to find the slope of the original line, then find the opposite reciprocal. So first, we need to find the slope of the original line. So to do that, we're going to have 8 minus -5 over 2 minus 3. So notice how, again, we have the change in y or the change in x. 8 and 2 come from the same point, and -5 and 3 come from the same point. So now when I simplify, 8 minus -5 is the same thing as 8 plus 5, so I get 13 over 2 minus 3, which is -1. So to find the slope of a line perpendicular to that, I have to make it opposite, so I know it's going to be positive, and find the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 13, or 13 over 1, is going to be 1 over 13. So my answer is going to be positive 1 over 13. Thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful, and have a good one.